CPTPP officially takes effect in Vietnam. And in our crosstalk, Vietnam-Sweden strengthen economic ties. Hello there and welcome to another edition of Bizline here on VTV International. I'm Hoàng Hằng and as usual we'll begin with some economic highlights over the past week. The Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, officially became effective in Vietnam from January the 14th. The CPTPP creates a free economic zone for 500 million people and accounts for 13% of global GDP. The agreement includes regulations on investment and services for a number of sectors and gradually abolishes tariffs on agricultural and industrial products. The CPTPP was signed by 11 founding member economies, including Vietnam, in March last year in Chile. On November the 12th, 2018, Vietnam's National Assembly ratified the CPTPP and other relevant documents. At a meeting to discuss the completion of institutions and policies to improve the efficiency of FDI attraction and its use by 2030 on Monday, Deputy Prime Minister Vương Đình Huệ stated that the project should highlight key content related to FDI and lay the foundation for attracting this source of investment. The Deputy Prime Minister said that the Politburo scheme is aimed at completing mechanisms and policies to attract FDI, including adjustment related to the law on tax, business, investments and land use. Deputy Prime Minister asked the Ministry of Planning and Investment to collect feedback from experts to concretize the direction of the Prime Minister at the conference to review 30 years of foreign direct investment. Most credit institutions expect that their business performance will continue to improve this year. This is according to the State Bank's Monetary Forecasting and Statistics Department. 86% of local credit institutions say that their business situation improved last year, and 88% hope it will continue to get better this year. About 77.6% of them predict the demand for banking services will increase. Meanwhile, the survey showed that 63.5% forecast that overall risks of all client groups will remain stable in 2019, and 15.3% say that risks are likely to decrease. Vietnam will continue to be one of the fastest growing economies in Asia and the fastest growing economy in ASEAN this year, according to a forecast report by Standard Chartered Bank, where Vietnam's growth rate is expected to reach 6.9%. Standard Chartered expects manufacturing to continue to grow at a double-digit level. FDI inflows to Vietnam will remain at a high level, forecasted at approximately $15 billion this year, with a strong focus on electronics. Meanwhile, slow growth in the construction sector will be offset by stronger growth in agriculture. Standard Chartered Bank predicts interest rates to be stable in 2019, and the Vietnamese đồng exchange rate is set to rise to 23,100 Vietnamese đồng per US dollars in the middle of the year, then drop to about 23,000 at the year end. 2019 will be the second consecutive year Vietnam is one of the top investment destinations in Asia. This is the result of a survey recently announced by the world's leading auditing firm, PwC. The survey was conducted in the context of Southeast Asia becoming an area for the best return on investment. The results were collected by interviewing CEOs across the region to find out where they want to invest in the next 12 months. This is the second year in a row Vietnam has become one of the top investment destination choices for companies in the region. The Vietnam Trade Promotion Agency, or Viettrade, announced its plans for collaboration with the Amazon Global Selling Program at a ceremony held on Monday. The program assists enterprises worldwide to access Amazon's global customers and develop their business no matter where they are, giving sellers the ability to contact over 300 million buyer accounts. According to their deal, Viettrade and Amazon Global Selling have agreed to support Vietnamese businesses, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, in accessing the global market on Amazon.com. This year, they will organize a series of support programs to equip SMEs with information on export opportunities, as well as skills to begin their business on Amazon's online retail system and complete their products and export procedures. More than 25 million magnetic ATM cards out of over 85 million cards in use must be converted to chip cards by the end of this year to prevent data loss and fraud, as stated in a circular just released by the State Bank of Vietnam (SBV). Accordingly, at least 30% of ATM cards issued by institutions with Bank Identification Number or BIN granted by the SBV will be subject to this switch. In addition, at least 60% of total cards with a BIN or 51 million ATM cards will have to be completely replaced with chip cards at the end of 2020. All remaining operational cards issued by commercial banks in the market must be converted by the end of 2021. Those are highlights in the Vietnam's economic scene. Up next, let's get to know more about Swedish companies doing business in Vietnam and their contribution to the nation's socio-economic development. Over the past 50 years of fruitful relations, Vietnam and Sweden have been consolidating cooperation on all fields, including trade. Two-way trade between the two countries is about $1 billion per year, and Vietnamese consumers are more familiar with famous Swedish brands such as Ericsson, H&M, and Volvo. Thanks to remarkable economic growth and improved business environment of Vietnam, the country has become a more attractive market for Swedish corporations to do business. So how have they contributed to the overall growth of Vietnam? Let's find out in this edition of BizLine. But first, let's watch the following clip.
As the first Western country to establish diplomatic ties with Vietnam for the past 50 years, Sweden has proved to be one of Vietnam's best partners in various fields, including trade. Bilateral trade turnover between Vietnam and Sweden is about $1 billion each year and has potential to robustly grow in the coming time. Some of the biggest Swedish companies are present in Vietnam and familiar with Vietnamese consumers such as Ericsson, H&M, IKEA, Tetra Pak, and Electrolux. Vietnam is in a pursuit for the fourth industrial revolution and sustainable development, which are also the main goals of many Swedish businesses and products. The two countries are also pushing for the ratification of the EVFTA, which promotes free trade from both countries.
We have invited to our studio today Swedish Ambassador to Vietnam, Ambassador Pedrik Holberg and Dr. Brian Holt of ABB to have a deeper insight into economic and trade ties between Vietnam and Sweden. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure.
Trade is one of the most important fields of cooperation between Vietnam and Sweden over the past 50 years. So what do you think have been the most notable achievements?
The development of Vietnam brought in big industry, like ABB that is here today, like Ericsson, like Electrolux, and so many of the big Swedish multilateral corporations. Over the time, not least with the very impressive economic growth and thereby the growth of the Vietnamese middle class, also Swedish consumer companies have arrived. You mentioned H&M, they are here, they just opened up several stores both in Ho Chi Minh City and in Hanoi last year. Volvo Cars is here. IKEA is planning to come, the Swedish furniture giant. IKEA is here sourcing. So IKEA is producing furniture for all its global stores, and what many Vietnamese don't know is that IKEA is providing or creating more than 100,000 jobs in Vietnam by suppliers and sub-suppliers, and that's very impressive. And then moving even further, I now see a very interesting trend of Swedish companies in the capital market. Several Swedish funds have entered into Vietnam, and they are here in cooperation with other Vietnamese funds, trying to be active in the Vietnamese stock market.
The presence of Swedish-linked corporations in Vietnam has boosted two-way trade, created jobs, and also promote technology transfer. So what do you think about this situation?
Vietnam wants to move and should move into higher productivity and a higher level of innovation. And I think here Swedish companies have so much to contribute with. And companies like Ericsson and like ABB here today, I think it's impressive to see how you are working, not least when it comes to the Internet of Things and when it comes to smart cities. And there are so many impressive Vietnamese engineers, Vietnamese thinkers, Vietnamese managers that are ready to step in and work in collaboration with Swedish business.
ABB is one of the first Swedish companies to operate in Vietnam. So what do you think about the potential of Vietnam as a market and also production hub, Dr. Hall?
Okay, thank you. Yes, you're right. Per-Erik is celebrating 50 years on behalf of the Swedish diplomatic relations, and we are celebrating 25 years. So we've been here a long time as well. And over those 25 years, we have seen huge increase in the volume of business we are doing here. So the goods that we're selling into the Vietnamese market, but also we have invested in people and in building new facilities, new factories. And this enables us not only to serve the domestic market, but to export. We are taking opportunities right across the globe to take the technology that the team here in Vietnam is developing, is manufacturing.
In the past 25 years of operation in Vietnam, ABB Vietnam has been one of the most notable Swedish enterprises to participate in key socio-economic constructions in Vietnam. ABB Vietnam's electrical equipment has been used in automation at Núi Pháo mine in Thái Nguyên province, the robotic packaging line at Vinasoy factory, energy saving solution at Cao Sơn mine in Quảng Ninh province, power management in the central cities of Đà Nẵng, Huế, Quy Nhơn, and power saving of the National Assembly building lighting system, the digitalization of freshwater distribution system in Ho Chi Minh City.
Chúng tôi cũng cung cấp các cái học bổng không những là dành cho các sinh viên xuất sắc mà dành cho những sinh viên có hoàn cảnh khó khăn nhưng mà vượt khó và có những kết quả học tập tốt. Và cũng luôn tạo điều kiện cho các bạn sinh viên mới ra trường ở Việt Nam được tham gia làm việc cho ABB, thực tập tại ABB để có thể góp phần xây dựng một cái đội ngũ cán bộ, kỹ sư, công nhân lành nghề cho nền phát triển kinh tế của đất nước.
ABB is also greatly involved in electrical systems, especially renewable energy. The company itself is also very strict in terms of sustainability, as its processed water meets environmental standards before being pumped out of the manufacturing cycle.
Chúng tôi đã xây dựng một cái công nghệ rất là tiên tiến, phù hợp với có khi tức là rất là phù hợp với cái ngành công nghiệp 4.0. Cụ thể là ứng dụng công nghệ kỹ thuật số và trí thông minh nhân tạo. Trong tương lai, ABB sẽ tập trung cung cấp những cái sản phẩm thông minh, những cái giải pháp thông minh, những cái nhà máy thông minh.
The factory of ABB Vietnam in Bắc Ninh province is expected to be a pioneering model of digital factory that introduces Industry 4.0 solutions.
Vietnam is pursuing Industry 4.0. So how can technological companies like ABB help Vietnam to further enhance our productivity and also competitiveness?
Yeah. So what can companies like ABB do? There's a number of things. First of all, we can work with the government, help educate them, to show them what those technologies, what the technological benefits can bring. So we can continue to do that with MOIT, for example, with EVM, to show them how new technology can overcome some of the problems that are here today. One of the areas we're very actively working in is power and energy generation. It's a theme that Vietnam has taken up, looking to move increasingly to sustainable sources, to wind, to solar, and there we can help with modern technologies to smooth out the intermittent effect of that, bring in storage systems which help manage that.
We can see that a lot of Swedish companies in Vietnam are specialized in high value and technological products, like we've mentioned earlier. So is it suitable for Vietnam, and will it continue in the future? Will we see more cooperation with Swedish companies in these fields?
Thank you. Yeah, it's absolutely suitable. I think there's no reason why Vietnam should not go for high tech, go for the best solutions that there are. One of the things that often strikes me here in Vietnam, that maybe the Vietnamese people don't really know how much Swedishness there already is in their lives. Many of the products we see the end game of it. We see the production make. We see the H&M store, or we see the Electrolux machine that we bought, but not least Swedish industrial products are very often hidden behind. They are parts of great machineries that are being used. The VinFast car, for example, that is being built, that is very impressive here. If you go to the factory and take a look where the robots are coming from that are producing these cars, they come from ABB.
Correct.
Right now, Tetra Pak is building a new factory in the southern parts of the country, outside of Ho Chi Minh City, not only for domestic use, but for global use. And Ericsson, the Swedish communication giant, just recently signed an MOU with the government to work for competence building and for science and technology.
What should Vietnamese companies do to fully take advantage of the modern technologies brought about by Swedish companies?
I think one of the key things is for companies to find each other. Even though we have been here for a long time, and even though many of the big Swedish companies are already here, I think the potential is much larger than the reality today. So first, we need to make networks and connections. And I'm very happy this year, when we are commemorating 50 years of diplomatic relations, that one of the key events we will do in May is a Sweden-Vietnam Business Summit. And it had basically two key focal points. One is to highlight Swedish business that is already here, to show the Vietnamese people and the Vietnamese government how much Swedishness is already here. But the second one is also to bring in new Swedish companies and businesses and enterprises to meet Vietnamese businesses and enterprises.
Since 1994, Tetra Pak, a Swedish packaging and processing firm for food and beverages products, has played a part in providing meals to children of Vietnam, therefore improves the average height and reduced malnutrition situation for Vietnamese students. Sustainability is one of Tetra Pak's priorities, as their packages are made mainly from environment-friendly materials. The company aims to use 100% of its power from renewable source by 2030.
We are very actively participating in the recycling activities. We are implementing the activities to promote the circular economy, and with the helping hands from our customers, from the society, from the community.
Tetra Pak, like other Swedish companies in Vietnam, is implementing solutions of Industry 4.0, which are expected to be present at its 110 million euro factory in Bình Dương province.
Packaging digitalization. This is a very new trend, and with this trend we offer two things to the consumers. The first one is traceability. They can easily trace back where and when the product is produced, where the material coming from. Another one is they can have some interaction with the manufacturer, such as they can join some promotion campaign or so on.
Tetra Pak is also aiming to help customers and manufacturers apply AI, big data, robotics, AR and QR codes into their production lines in Vietnam.
innovation and sustainable development are the mutual goals of many Swedish firms. So how is this reflected in manufacturing and energy sector in Vietnam?
As I've said already, we invest in our own solar energy generation. So we try and minimise the amount of energy we need to use coming from the national grid, which may be generated by coal, for example. We try and make sure that the water we use on site is treated safely, and we monitor it using our own equipment. So before it's returned to the environment, that meets all the standards of the environmental departments here. Most of our equipment nowadays, we will have apps. So on my mobile phone, I can see the energy that's being consumed minute by minute, day by day at our factory in Bac Ninh. I can see the energy that's being generated from our solar farm, and that makes us much more aware of how much energy we're using and producing, and therefore we want to become more energy efficient. We promote that, and I'm sure by doing that, the companies here in Vietnam can also help to do their bit to become more sustainable.
It's fantastic being here and seeing the bamboo forest, how it grows, and I think bamboo forests in general are so beautiful with the light coming through the leaves and everything. In furniture production, the material choice has the greatest impact on the carbon footprint. We have chosen to work with bamboo because it has amazing properties. It's a great carbon dioxide binder, it grows really quickly, and there are no pesticides or fertilizers used in the process.
Ngọc Sơn thì có cái thời gian làm việc với ICA khoảng gần 10 năm nay rồi. Khoảng 2 năm, 1 năm về đây thì ICA là luôn luôn có đưa những cái đoàn thiết kế đến làm việc cùng với cả phía nhà cung cấp, thì cũng giúp được tiết kiệm chi phí rất là nhiều và giúp được tạo ra được một cái sản phẩm có một giá thành tốt và công năng sử dụng tốt hơn.
On our trip to Vietnam, we realized that Soari also has a purpose greater than business.
Lục bình ở đây thì nó lớn rất là nhanh. Nếu mình không cắt đi thì nó sẽ nở ra đầy sông, làm cho cái đường giao thông mình không có được suôn sẻ lắm. Năm nay được năm cuối rồi, năm thứ tư. Thì chị nhờ cái tiền này mà chị nuôi con chị thoải mái lắm, chị vui lắm.
The sales of Soari had reached 2 million pieces a year, a number approaching the impossible when it comes to delivering quality, handmade, natural fiber products.
Now, how have the Vietnamese government and also the private sector facilitated Swedish investment and cooperation in Vietnam so far?
Well, I can of course only speak from the government's perspective. So I feel that the Swedish government and the Swedish embassy, together with the Swedish business in Vietnam, we have access to the government when needs be. And I also feel that the government is listening to us. And I'm just impressed in the way both the government, the local governments, the cities, and the Vietnamese business are receiving the Swedish business delegations, and that they are curious about them.
Okay. And as a member of the private sector, what do you have to say about this?
No, I think, as I said already, the macro environment that the government creates here is very positive. It understands that in future Industry 4.0 and all the benefits that it can bring. There's sometimes a time lag between the words and the legislation changing, but that happens in every country, I'm afraid. It's never as quick as we in the private industry would like to see it. But I would also echo what Per-Erik said. I think government departments here are very willing to learn from experience from international companies.
And the final question, what are your expectations for Vietnam-Swedish economic ties in the future as a private company?
The great thing is, I think the Swedish companies, Swedish as a country is well trusted here because we have been here for 50 years or 25 years in the case of ABB. So having that legacy of trust, seeing that we're here for the long term, helps it makes it much more easy for businesses to do business with each other and grow and be successful.
And Mr. Ambassador, what are your expectations?
I think I will steal a word from Brian that he uses, and I think that's key, that's trust. I'm also very positive when it comes to looking into the Swedish-Vietnamese relationship into the future, because it's built on trust. And we count on, more on the macro level than, or government to government level, we count on the Vietnamese government to continue to be open to free trade.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency and Dr. Ho, for joining our talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
2019 marks the 50-year milestone of Vietnam-Sweden relations, in which economy is a vital part. Both sides expect that the Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement, or EVFTA, which is going to be concluded and ratified soon, will create new dynamics for the bilateral economic relations. The Swedish government is committed to providing long-term support for Vietnam's economic development through boosting trade and exchanging business solutions. And Vietnam will continue to be a promising land for Swedish corporations to do business. The Sweden-Vietnam Business Summit, scheduled to be held this May, is expected to strengthen this win-win cooperation. And that also wraps up this edition of BizLine. For more news and updates, please log on to vtv4.vn or our YouTube channel at vtv4go. Thank you so much for joining, and goodbye from Hanoi.